Hello, welcome to April 11th, 2023, our Living Our Values 11/11. We meet every month on the 11th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And here we are yet again. Hi, Sheila.
Right. Never know what day it's going to be. It's always different. So it makes for very interesting participation.
And scheduling. It
Yes,
really does.
absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here.
Yeah. And that's why we record it too. So in case you missed it, you can be listening to the recording. And we decided to come together. We decided this in the fall of 2020. I had this idea, and Sheila and I figured out what it was going to be. And we wanted to create a place where we could continue talking about what it means to live in our values, have a discussion about, sorry, I'm letting someone in on the waiting room. What does it mean to live our values? Have a place to talk about the challenges, talk about the celebrations, talk about values in a way that is specific and meaningful to us, not in this vague kind of way where it gets kind of thrown in with purpose, principles, it just gets part of a list of things rather than clearly what our values in and of themselves. So that's what we do here. And we always have a really fruitful conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to it every month. So hi, Kina. We're glad you're here.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't really have a voice, so
I hear that. Okay. You can rest it. You can type in the chat or just speak when you want to, but we're glad you're here. I like to start off the 11/11s by saying what are core values, because we define them very specifically. So core values are words and phrases, typically short, that really connect you to your highest self, your most genuine self, that part of you that is really perfect, right? Like that best version of yourself. And they become a bridge so that if you're out in the world and moving about, you have an anchor to connect you back. They're the bridge back to yourself. And they also help you leave your home or leave that kind of place that you can get when you're really working on yourself and a little bit, or an introvert like I am often, and not want to leave the house. So they can really help us get out of the house and be with others. So they work both ways in that. Sometimes they come from birth. They're kind of born with our values. Sometimes they emerge over our lifetime, and sometimes we learn them from others around us. And what we talk about in our values work is getting really clear and to understand and clarify what ours actually are. And we talk about having one set of values, one set that we apply to work, one set we apply to home, to our relationships. If you're building a business, you don't have different values for your business than you do when you live your life. I think that kind of splitting is an old idea, and a new modern idea is that we're one person with these values that we demonstrate in all areas of our life. And that's what we're going to talk about here, which our theme for this month is clarity. And what does it mean to have clarity? A lot of times when I have clarity, it comes after a period of vagueness where I haven't been clear. And I don't even know that that's happening until I get clear. So it's a funny thing, the vagueness clarity dance that happens. The values, I think, for me have definitely helped me stay clear more often than not, because they're that anchor and that bridge that helps me get to that anchor, right? So the connection to self. So they help me find that clarity. And our world is set up for us not to be clear, in my experience. And in the terms that what I mean by that is we're busy. We have many different demands on us, many obligations, just even it's April, it's tax month, right? So just the normal kind of things we have to do to get ready for paying our taxes, to our health and daily things. Like certainly modern life has made many things easier for us, and I don't know about you all, but technology, as much as it's supposed to make life easier, I find myself more busy having to have more applications, paying for more subscriptions than I've ever had before to do the things that are supposed to make my life easier. So it becomes this vicious cycle. And when I'm in busyness, I am not in clarity. It's just that way because I'm focusing on other things. So that's where the values really help me do that. But the first thing is like getting clear about what your values are. That's one way we talk about it, I would say. And we do that here in our quest, which we just completed. And other times we do workshops, the Inner Compass workshop. And we find we talk about getting clear, and then it's about living our values, which is really committing to a path of clarity and being in the present and mindful in our lives, intentional. So Sheila, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, you beautifully stated. I would just add that part of this journey around clarity and really understanding and living from the values is really noticing those moments of being aligned and moments of being out of alignment. I think that that's the biggest way to recognize when you are living from your values or not. And you talked earlier about the vagueness that comes and sometimes not knowing that place. And I have to think about that. And it's like, yeah, sometimes that when there's a new level of clarity, you may not have even realized that there's vagueness, but there just may be some discomfort. There's something that doesn't quite feel right. And using your values as one of those tools that allows you to see more clearly what is most important to you and where the focus needs to be, the energy, right, of what you're doing, what's behind what you're doing. It's such a powerful way of gaining that alignment, gaining that sense of clarity, that sense of knowing, yes, I'm still on track here. This may, I'm getting all this outside interference, but I know what's important to me and where I need to be. And just recognizing those moments. I love, dear, I want to say, I love the image that you evoked in your email about the clouds and the rain and the skies clearing in Los Angeles, and just how amazing that experience is of seeing mountains that some people for the first time actually see. Some people don't realize that we're surrounded by mountains in a sense, right? Because the air is never clear enough. It's not clear enough often enough to see that. But when it is, it's just stunning. It's stunningly beautiful. And the way that the rain just kind of washes away all of those layers of gunk and it reveals something that was always there before. That kind of clarity, really using your values, really helps you to get to that place of clarity, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with this thing, but when I apply my values to the situation, I'm not feeling that struggle. It suddenly becomes clear to me what I need to do, what's important to do. And sometimes it's hard stuff, right? Or it's unpleasant or difficult or challenging things, but it's like being in alignment for me always feels much more, I don't want to say urgent, but there's a pull to that alignment, that even when things are hard, I'm going to move in that direction because I know what a difference it makes. So that's kind of the beauty of being able to access and utilize your values and to have that level of clarity. It just makes things so much easier. Ease and flow.
Ease and flow, totally. I completely agree and appreciate the way you talked about that, because a lot of times when we're out of alignment, all we have is just a weird feeling. And if we're busy, like we were talking about, I know for myself, I'll just slide right by that and not pay attention to it, which perpetuates the vagueness, perpetuates the cloudiness, perpetuates all of it. So it's really starting with that noticing ourselves when something's not right. Now, sometimes something could be uncomfortable, like, oh, I don't want to get up in the morning, right? Because I'm tired and the dog woke me up too early. Oh, yeah, that happened. But but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to stay in bed all day, but I don't really want to stay in bed all day, right? But there's that fogginess that can kind of come over, and but it's noticing that and being kind to myself about it, but not staying in the fogginess. There, I don't know, there's comfort sometimes in the vagueness. There's sometimes comfort in the fogginess, and but that's not like the healthy kind of comfort. And we only know that, when we're clear. I mean, I think the example of the mountains is a really good one in that regard, which is why I thought of it, right? We're living in smog, which is why we can't see the mountains, right? The smog keeps us from seeing the mountains, which is not the healthiest of air quality. But when it clears and you see it, they're so beautiful and stoic, and they're there all the time, but we forget because we can't see them always. And so I think it's kind of like, can we still see the mountains even when the smog is there? And see that if we hold on to that vision, can we hold on to that space? And I see that the values can help us do that, right? Because I know one of my values is sustainability. When I want to stay in bed at night or in the morning and cover my head with the covers, which has happened more than I would like to admit, sustainability helps me get up. Like, it's not sustainable for me to stay in bed. It doesn't feel good in my body. It doesn't feel good, even though there's that like really little part of me that just wants to hide sometimes. But that's what I mean, where the values help me get up and get out. So yeah, Kina had lost her voice and she's wrote, so she's writing in the chat, I had no idea LA had green land because it's always foggy, right? Yeah. It's amazing. So yeah, I think some of it is definitely like, a marine layer fog, and some of it is also unhealthy air. So I'm not suggesting we're living in like, we can't breathe outside, because we can, but the air quality could certainly be better. And gosh, when everyone was home during COVID, that was one of the benefits, is how much the air quality improved and how much we could see even without.
That was amazing. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. Yes.
So, but the clarity, those are symbolic, and they're literal and symbolic in that way. But we have tools at our fingertips to help us stay clear when there's so much going on trying to take us out of our center, really. And clarity is about really being in alignment, being connected, knowing what we're about in a given situation, and seeing a situation as crystal as it could be, as clear as it can be. And I like the word clarity too, because when we talk about a diamond, we talk about the clarity of a diamond. How clear can you see it? So diamonds that are mined fairly and ethically, of course, I'm talking about, but that idea that it is a valuable stone, valuable experience to have that kind of clarity. And it's not always easy to have clarity, because sometimes we have to see a situation we don't really want to see. I've certainly been in a relationship where I'm like, oh no, I thought this was this. Oh no, that's that. So there's a reason we don't want clarity, because like I said earlier, the vagueness is comfortable, but it's that discomfort that we feel in our values out of alignment that helps us move towards the clarity, that helps us live the life we really want. Because I'm happier now on the other side of it. It's just in the moment of it where it's very uncomfortable. So, hi Coach
Constance. Wanted to acknowledge your presence.
Yes.
Hi there. Great topic.
Right?
So today. It's been a while. Yeah. Nice to hear you.
Good to see you both. Yes.
We're glad you're here. Anything you want to add, or questions, or anything that's come up for you that you want to?
Nothing in particular comes to mind. Having the clarity on clarity is helpful.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about you mentioned the comfort piece, and it really is about our comfort zone, right? So there's a being in the comfort zone, there's a level of comfort, but there's also discomfort because it's like it's stasis, it's like the same, right? There's not a whole lot of movement. I was just writing about this. It's amazing how these things happen. I was writing about this morning. It's about just that pull back into the comfort zone, the thing that the body is accustomed to, the habits that we have, the ways of going about our day. Just there's like a chemical pull to do the same thing over and over again because there's a familiarity with it, right? That's what our bodies are trying to help us with, right? Because they're so brilliant. They're trying to keep us from having to do a lot of extra things. So it's like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be. So it keeps kind of pulling you back into that place. I too struggle sometimes with the getting out of bed thing. Because when I first wake up, I never feel that amazing kind of the sense of restfulness that I think that I'm supposed to feel, right? It happens afterwards when I get out of the bed. It doesn't happen in the bed. So if I try to make a decision in the bed, it's not going to be a very good decision, right? So it's like I know but my body is pulling me, and like and my mind is telling me all these things that, so just maybe, another half hour or just like rest here for a while, all those things is just the habit. It's just that pull of that habit. And there is a comfort in that. And you talked too about not necessarily having to think, because that's the thing, it's automatic, right? So our habits are automatic. The things that we have, the ways that we have are habitual. They're repeated over and over again. And there's a certain level of comfort and familiarity with that because you don't really have to change. But then there's also this nagging piece inside of me that feels like, oh my God, I feel like I'm stuck, or I feel like there's not enough movement, or I'm not introducing enough new or whatever else into my life, right? So it's recognizing and honoring that by really, again, it's like using tools, thinking, like having some momentary pause where you can actually see, oh, this is what I've been doing, right? And it feels comfortable, but it's not the kind of comfort that is sustainable or the kind of comfort that I want to continue to have because it's not allowing me to grow and stretch.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think Hina is relating to that too. I think we all are, right? She wrote, that's been my issue, is the comfort zone, but it doesn't feel comfortable because I'm not doing what needs to be done. And it's hard to break out of those old habits. Exactly. It's true. And that's the vagueness. That's that same feeling, the cloudiness, the comfort zone that's not really where we want to be. But like you said, we kind of roll towards that side. It's kind of like, when there's that dip in the bed, right? Right? You just got to roll there. And you're like, this doesn't feel comfortable, but you can't get out of it. But it's supposed to be comfortable. And, some of it's redefining what comfort is, and looking at it differently. Some of it, I think the most important thing is not to be judgmental, self-judgmental about any of it. It's really, that's why I like the idea of noticing these things, because once we can bring our love and attention to it, we can just notice it and notice what's going on. And then that's when the clarity comes, like, oh, wow, I'm noticing that I don't want to get out of bed. And then the motivation comes with the values. I mean, there's research done about how values can be more motivating and helpful in that regard. And so if we can attach what we see on the other side of getting out of bed, feeling good, feeling healthy in our body. So for me, it was like, it's just not sustainable to stay in bed. I'm not going to feel connected to myself or others in that way. So connection, then that help me get out of bed. Not in a way that was like beating myself up if I didn't. Some days you may just be really tired. But I think it's like living in that middle zone where I'm just like, I'm not really committed to one or the other, which is another kind of form of vagueness on that autopilot of things. And which is why when we talk about values, I'll often say, we go from the automatic to the present. Because when we're looking through life through the lens of our values, it instantly brings us into the present moment. It takes us out of that automatic behavior. And if a value, because it's kind of will come up against those often. And there's a difference between like rest and, that thing I was talking about earlier, where I just don't want to deal.
Escape.
Escape. Yeah, right. And some of it's human too, I think,
Uh-huh.
So, because the busyness is so busy, I find. So, yeah. Sheila, what's going on?
Oh, I was just looking at the chat. No, it's from before, but I was
Oh.
reminded of this whole thing. Somebody sent me one time this graphic that kind of described the comfort zone and what's beyond the comfort zone, and it really helped me. It's there's like the comfort zone that you have, and then beyond that is the fear zone. So sometimes we're residing in the fear zone, and then there's a place called the learning zone. And then there's a separate place called the growth zone. So it's like there's all these different zones that you can go to, but when you're residing in the comfort zone, everything remains the same. If you were residing in the fear zone, then it's all about limitations and like not really being able to invite the world in, or not knowing what to do, kind of being paralyzed. It's moving into that place of the learning zone and the growth of the zone. That's the place where I want to reside more often than not, right? So if I find myself stuck in the comfort zone, I know I've got some work to do to like extricate myself from that place and start moving into those other places that feel more alive, enlivening, empowered, purposeful, whatever word you want to attach to it. But it's like, okay, got it. This is life, and now I'm living life versus restricting myself or limiting myself or making myself small or keeping myself safe. And so that always feels really good to get to the place of being able to expand just beyond that comfort zone.
Right. Yeah. I know Coach Constance talks about, I'm speaking for you here, but it's helped me too, like going to the edge of your comfort zone. Like you don't have to go out of your comfort zone, but just getting to that edge and kind of working with the edge of it. And that really has helped me, because if I go too far out my comfort zone, my nervous system won't be able to handle it. And then I'll go running back to my comfort zone. So I'm like, that sucked. It is dangerous out there. I'm going back into my comfort zone. So I appreciate that idea of like, because there's so much like jump out of your comfort zone, jump off the bridge and
leap in the net will appear, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. So and sometimes I've done that and but usually I have, I have to know there's some net of some kind, at least is there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, Constance, if you have anything you want to add to that, since I spoke about your, what you say in your.
No, that was well said. Okay. Expanding our comfort zone. Yes.
Yeah. And just kind of like, going to the edge of it. Because I do think it's little by little. It's really about kind of not going too far. And in our culture, our world, especially America, where it's like black and white, good or bad, this or that, if we can, in this work, be able to see those edges and push against them with our knowing of our values, being able to help us do that and find out how to expand that into the growth, right? Bring the fear in, bring the growth in to the comfort zone, right? So the comfort zone expands in a way.
Absolutely.
So it's there. I see Kina asked a question. Let's see. For the things I want to do, like get up early, should I go through my values and see how it will align? I mean, yes. I think what you can do is look at your values in terms of like put it like kind of how we do that. I think you were here when we did the self-care worksheet and did the self-care stuff. So if you want to get up early, look at how it aligns with each of your values, and that can help you motivate to get up early. It also may mean that if you need more sleep because you've lost your voice or you're not feeling well, you have to make sure that you're looking at it. You're not kind of shooting yourself into getting up too early. Or because I've been having to get up earlier too, I've been trying to get to bed earlier. So it's kind of like looking at it, looking at the whole picture through the lens of your values. And some of that could be, you know, starting with, do I need to get up earlier? You know, like really getting into understanding what it is you're trying to accomplish by getting up earlier and asking, doing that. There's a decisions guide that came with the quest that can be helpful with something like that too. Because it really, what we're talking about here is shifting your framework, how you're thinking about it, not just, because what happens if we just keep doing the same thing, it ends up being a lot more shoulds, and sometimes it fights against it in that regard. Did that make sense? Someone tell me if I made sense when I said that. Okay,
It makes sense to me.
Okay, good. Yeah. So your values are an excellent tool to look at the whole picture. The idea is that they look at something multidimensionally and holistically for your best version of you. So, right, because you have one that's about, I don't remember, it was about health, physical health, right? So getting up early, just when you do it, make sure it's not just, oh yeah, I want to get up early so I can work out, but you're also like, oh, prioritizing sleep, because I know that sleep is super important. And there's more, you know, data and evidence about how important sleep is too. And so you're looking at it from those kinds of that kind of lens. So, right, yours was physical health. That's right. Right. So getting up early can have, the idea is, I really see it as kind of that multidimensional thing, the values. They're not linear in that way. You can apply them to both of it. So hopefully that helps. Which, as you can see, my voice is gone. I haven't been doing that, right? Which is why I mentioned that. Yeah, because it's, you know, I'm sorry to hear, and I know you weren't feeling well like a bit ago too. So A, there's a lot of stuff going around, and B, the knowing what it is in our culture of do more, be more, succeed more, push more, it can throw us off. And so our values are equally, sometimes rest is the loving choice, not getting up early. But that's where it becomes really a moment decision to be really present with ourselves and really get in touch with what we are. So she wrote, I've been out of alignment for a while, living in the comfort and fear zone, as Sheila mentioned. Right. Yeah.
That's not, it's not, and again, this is not about judgment or anything else, or just like recriminating yourself or being hard on yourself about it. It's like, it's about awareness, you know, the awareness, you know, sometimes it takes me a while to get out of the funker to get to a different place, right? But I'm aware. When I have awareness, I have the capacity to like make a different choice, right? And at some point that it's like, I'm thinking about the caterpillar or whatever else it is, you know, as you're making or the egg, you know, the chicken that wants to emerge from the safety and comfort of that egg, right? At some point, staying too long, it becomes polluted, right? It can't stay sustainably in that space. It has to peck its way out, because that's the next level. That's the next stage for it, right?
Right.
And sometimes we can stay in that place and begin to feel that sense of pollution, or that sense of, oh, this is getting toxic. This is getting to the place where I can no longer tolerate this. So I'm going to have to make a choice. I'm being pulled towards something else, or this discomfort is pushing me, you know, into my next action, because I can no longer tolerate this state. But sometimes we just have to have the awareness and recognize that that choice comes in its own time, right? And it comes hopefully at a place where we're not beating ourselves up, but just recognizing this is my process, right? Or, okay, now it's time. And then we take that next step, and we're no longer stuck in that same comfort zone. We've begun to expand it a little bit, like you said, pushing against the edges of it, finding a different way to be and to like think about things, or to exist, because it feels better.
Right.
Feels better for our souls, feels better for every part of us, for the essence of who we are, right?
Right. And, you know, and sometimes we talk about this a lot with turning points. That's beautifully said, Sheila. And that sometimes these sometimes comfort, so we have to get out of our comfort zone because we know we have to get out of it. Other times life does it for us.
Yeah.
And we have no control over that, in a loss of a relationship, a loss of, you know, or anything that happened, business not going well, or kids growing up, or a diagnosis. I mean, there's so many different things that can force us to get out of that comfort zone. And as I liked what Jude wrote, which is the awareness allows us to course correct. And it's what we're talking about today, right, is the framework of values to help us find the clarity no matter what is happening, whether we're in the comfort zone, whether life has thrown something at us, whether we're recognizing it. It's giving us that the key to the values is that pause to become aware, is that moment to be aware. And then it's the taking that and getting clarity through that awareness of where we are and where we want to go. And the values really help us do that in this kind of gentle, loving way. Jude, it's nice to see your hand up.
Is that all? Just nice to see it. And I'm like, hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, this is already like so grounding me in. I mean, one thing, you know, that came up to me, and it's for myself, really, you know, like when I hear pushing against the edges, you know, for me, I don't want to be pushing anymore at all. Like I want to be leaning in to noticing what the response is from the universe, and which leads me to what you were just talking about, Sheila, and Amy, you know, that I can have all these signs and all this awareness and all, like, you know, the knowledge, but do I have the courage to take a step to change? Like Amy, you were saying, if we do the same thing, we get the same results, right? So for me, I even recognized as I was, you know, thinking about this, how much courage is part of my values, because I, up until now, had been one of those people that was always forced to have to make a change because I wasn't listening, or I was moving at the speed of light, that I wasn't having the presence, which is a value of mine, presence, you know, to be able to really take in what's happening, and then leaning into that courage, which allows me to step into a new experience.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's true. The courage, you know, courage is one of those big words. It can be a value, but it's also in, you know, it's interesting to look at how it's in all of our values, because it takes courage to live our values. Right.
Absolutely. Takes courage to live this way of life.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it is. It's a definite woven, as for me, as is presence, you know, it's like, there's just like, it's, you know, it's the constant thread through many of them. But, you know, for me, the value of presence, and maybe it's even a different name, but it means so much more than just, you know, sitting still with my mudras, you know. It's more about being still in, you know, like in the eye of the storm, right? Like in whatever's going on. It's like, can I be still? How can I have the courage to be still in that, you know, it really is in everything.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the pushing too, because I wanted to bring that up a little bit, because I think there's a difference between forcing something, like pushing against, like having to push, and kind of in then finessing, and the natural part of, like, when you want to build muscle, you have to kind of have some resistance. So I think that's more what I was talking about, like, because I've been doing my PT, right? And I have the resistance bands, and it not too hard, but it helps me strengthen my hip or my ankle or whatever I'm working on with a little bit of resistance. Sheila mentioned, what were you talking about? I always think the butterfly, right?
Oh, yeah, I was like the egg, the chicken.
The eggs, right? But butterflies are the same from my understanding is that you are the butterfly has to or the caterpillar, before we come up with the butterfly that can fly, they found out that if someone just kind of cut the butterfly open, it has a hard time flying. But it's actually the butterfly comes out of the cocoon kind of finessing, right, against the outer parts of it to be able to fly. So I think it's the difference between force and finesse, or kind of push and resistance, that is for us, not like shoulds, must have tos, push hard, have to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see Jude said that she's landing with the word finesse. That lands beautifully. That's great.
Yeah.
It is. It's like,
an
this is that ease and flow.
Ease and flow, right?
Ease and flow. It's
Right.
like, force just doesn't feel good. Even though sometimes we feel like we're being forced to do things, right? When you talked about situations or circumstances that take us right out of our comfort zone, it's like, man, we've got to react, right? But the thing is that we react, but then we want to get right back into the comfort zone, because it's like you're just being forced out of it. Yeah, you can respond to that and do what needs to happen, but it's how do you expand it? How do you make it more malleable? How do you just keep like growing it and building it in a way that it just, like what you said, it encompasses the fear zone. It's like, okay, I can have fear but still move forward. I can learn, right? I can be in a growth mode. I can be all these different things and not feel like I have to go back to this place of, this small place. This is the only place where I feel the comfort. I can feel the comfort. I guess people always talk about feeling the comfort in the discomfort, right? So like there's a beautiful truth to that, right? Because it's like a moment in time. It's like you can get to the place of actually even experiencing it that way, right?
Right.
And for me, that certainly helps to expand it, because then I'm not looking for a certain thing. I don't have the expectation that it has to be a certain way and I have to be completely comfortable and ready and everything else before I move forward. I can recognize that sometimes it's like, it's gonna be a little bit like a beginner. It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable here, but I'm still gonna move forward and just know that that's just the way that it's gonna play out.
Yeah. And the values help that, right? And I think that's, I was just thinking about that right now when you were talking about it, because the clarity, that's why we talk so much about getting super clear about your values. Know what they are, know what they mean, because you're then in all these different situations we're talking about, whether it's a work thing or getting out of bed or whatever, you're using the same exact set of values and applying them in different situations. So you really get to use them in a way to bring clarity to any situation you're in, whether you're shopping at Target or in your bed or have to make a deal or look for a job or, post something. It's all the same set of values that kind of show up. And why in the second half of the quest, we do the alignment roadmap, because in those moments of the comfort, in those moments of unknown, in those moments of discomfort, you can look at your list and see concrete things you can do, actions you can take. It helps you you don't have to constantly rethink of something to do to help you climb out of that. And that's why I like that as a clarity tool, because it really helps us. We plan when we're not in that state, and then when we're in that state, I'm like, oh right, yeah, I can get up and I can meditate. I can put a heating pad on myself. I can find these things that feel good to me, and just a little change. So I'm like out of my bed, but not too far, and then I'm out the door on a walk, and then I'm on 11:11, and then I'm, 5 more things, Zooms today. But it's that kind of thing where we have a plan in place to help us that's already aligned with the values we know make us feel good. So if we're in that alignment, then the idea is that it will be clearer for us. We don't have to keep reinventing the wheel every time we're in that zone of comfort, discomfort. We can really have a plan towards alignment, really.
I just wanted to say, because when you're talking, Amy, it just keeps coming up for me. You know, the values are like a vision, right? Obviously, Vision Quest, and it was coming up before, Sheila, when you were saying something. You know, Michael Beckwith always says, "Be pulled by the vision rather than pushed by the fear." You know, so the values and the vision is like who I'm stepping into, who I want to become, and that's that desire, you know, is kind of like the vision that pulls me into making these different choices.
And I absolutely love that word becoming, because I think that's so much of what it's about. Really, it is about becoming. It's about who you want to become and who you're in the process of becoming, right? This is never ending. It's like you don't ever arrive exactly, but this is a steady, although not necessarily steady, but a consistent move toward growth, toward becoming more of who you really are, shedding the things that don't serve you, right? And your values are this beautiful compass for helping you to do that, right? And to do it with kindness, do it with gentleness, do it so that it's not so jarring, you know, that you're not pushing and wrestling with something, but that you just really can like take in, know the values, know what your values are, and use them to guide you toward actions that move you further along to that becoming the person that you want to be, that you envision yourself as, that you know that yourself to be.
Right. That knowing. Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's true. And yeah, the values are is the vision tangible, right? Like it's something we can actually work with tangibly any moment of the day. It's not something aspirational in that sense. It's in the here and now, which is the aim. So Kina says she loves that quote, the Michael Beckwith one. So thank you for sharing that too. I liked it too. What was it exactly? It was be pulled by the vision, not pushed by the fear. Did I get that right?
It's close to that.
Sorry. It's either like let the vision pull you rather than the fear push you, or be pulled by the vision. Yeah, something. Don't quote me on the quote, but that's the main gist of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that I mean that's what we're doing here, right? We're defining the vision by getting in touch with who we are, what we care about, what's important to us, and that takes courage. That takes clarity of self to know how to do. And then taking it to the next level, right? Let the vision pull you there. And when we create that vision, then we talk about ways to interact with it, engage with it, be with it in our lives. Yeah. So any final thoughts? We're almost at the end. Another lovely conversation. Anyone have anything they want to say, or who would like to say some final words or type some final words?
Oh, I just looked at the quote. We are pushed by pain until we are pulled by vision. Or the other one is pain pushes until vision pulls. So it's the same thing. Yeah, it's pretty profound.
Right. That is really profound. I love that. Yeah. And so, this is a step towards vision and directing us towards that vision all throughout our day.
Clarity.
Yeah. And that's where the clarity comes in. Clarity of what that vision is. And then and then the multidimensionality of that vision. It's not just in one area of our life. We can aim for that same vision in a more holistic way, rather than it be bifurcated and separated out. So what a lovely conversation today. Any final thoughts, anyone? No? All right. Well, we are so glad you all came by.
Thank you for having this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to have you all here and love the conversation. And we'll be here next month. And all of you are in the community. So tomorrow at 4 p.m., we'll be on Zoom. It's the same Zoom for a half an hour, talking, either we can co-work, we can talk about values, the roadmap, all at the above. So it's a values dedicated space. It's a little different than this, because it's more kind of concrete coaching. Office hours, Q&A, whatever you need, we're there. So hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too, ladies.
Thank you. And this will be the recording too, will be for anyone who wants to see the beginning part if you missed it. All right.
All right. See you
Bye.
next time.